I just assumed that because my child had an illness that there would be help available. There's not.
For Danna Walker, the most devastating part of losing her job of 14 years last December was not the loss of income. Rather, it was the loss of health insurance for her 21-year-old son, Jake.
The first thing that I thought about, of course, is how am I going to ensure that my child gets to go to the doctor? Because he does have cancer, he is in remission now, but he does still have to have every 3 months go to the doctor for checkups.
If unemployment caught them off guard, Danna and her husband Russ were even less prepared for the odyssey that followed, an agonizing search to find affordable health care. Now, 6 months after being laid off, they still have no health insurance for themselves. It's a familiar situation for millions of newly uninsured Americans who find themselves one diagnosis away from medical and financial ruin.
When you're used to walking in and handing somebody a $20 bill for a $200 office visit, yeah, it's different. You realize how vulnerable you really are.
Jake was diagnosed with advanced testicular cancer in 2005.
He had started to be in pain some the last few weeks before he shared with us.
He was a big 18-year-old kid and president of his high school Future Farmers of America club.
We are now holding the Uncle FFA banquet.
The world was my doorstep. I just had everything going for me, and then something's wrong. It just wasn't cool.
He came to me one night and told me that one of his testicles was bigger than the other. And I said, well, I think that's kind of normal. He goes, no, Mom, it's a lot bigger. So we did go to the doctor the very next day. And he did have a 10-pound tumor in his abdomen. It had metastasized to his abdomen.
At the time, Jake was covered by his mother's employer, DHL Delivery Service, and the only concern was to get him the best possible care. Over the next 2 years, Jake underwent 2 stem cell transplants, 4 surgeries, and numerous chemotherapy treatments. But it wasn't enough. In 2007, doctors gave him a 20% chance of survival.
My first thought was just devastation, This can't be happening. And then I got mad. And I said, if you can't help him, you find me somebody that can. And they sent us to MD Anderson. And we were met with a doctor named Lance Paliero.
I estimated his risk of recurrence to be 100%.
At MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston, widely considered one of the top cancer hospitals in the country, Dr. Lance Pagliaro gave Jake an experimental regimen of chemotherapy drugs as a last-gasp chance of destroying the cancer.
He really helped me out, and I'm pretty sure he saved my life.
Now, 3 years after his diagnosis, and nearly $2 million of medical care later, Jake is living cancer-free as a junior at Oklahoma State University.
Could be a normal person now. My hair's going to grow back. I'm not going to be in a crowd of people, and you're not going to be able to pick me out and say, oh, that kid has cancer.
But while Jake enjoys a return to normal life, the fear of recurrence remains a daily reality for his family. For at least the next 2 years, he requires regular monitoring, including CT scans, blood tests, and x-rays that run thousands of dollars.
If he can remain free of disease long enough, someday we hope we can pronounce him cured. Now we are 1 year out, so obviously we're still within that 2 to 3 years period where he's at risk.
The day-to-day worry that the cancer will come back is made worse by the uncertainty of whether Jake would again be able to get the care he needs. In December, when Danna took Jake to MD Anderson for a checkup, she told hospital administrators that she would likely be losing her insurance.
I was certainly concerned to hear that they might lose their insurance. We would not have been able to do any of the treatment that we gave if he didn't have insurance.
In all, Jake had received nearly $2 million in surgeries and treatment. One abdominal surgery cost about $300,000.
I had retroperitoneal lymph node dissection, quite a big ordeal, and this is my scar.
To deny him the relatively inexpensive follow-up that is so crucial to make sure that he continues to stay healthy, to deny him that just makes absolutely no sense.
Well, Dr. Pagliaro said that he was going to do all that he could and was going to help us out, that what he did with me was kind of experimental, and that he thought that I needed to stay under his care.
But that was in December, when the Walkers returned to MD Anderson for further blood work in late March. It was a different story.
The doctor came in and said, his hands were basically tied because of the financial situation that MD Anderson itself was in. And we would, the business office told me we would be receiving a bill. So are you just getting horse feed?
Yeah.
Okay, how many are you going to get?
Danna and her husband Russ are currently living on unemployment checks and occasional proceeds from a struggling feed store in suburban Houston.
They ended up getting 89 cents a pound.
You feel like you've been abandoned. You feel like you've been kicked to the curb. You know, like, as long as you have insurance, we're willing to go over the moon to see you and make sure that everything is taken care of. And the minute you don't, you're just, they don't want you.
To make matters worse, Danna learned that according to federal rules, Jake could be denied coverage for pre-existing conditions if he goes more than 63 days without insurance. Unable to continue paying for her previous employer's insurance, she scraped together all the family could afford for a short-term student health policy through Oklahoma State University. Jake had only a week left, and the cost was $335 a quarter.
I mean, she came to the store and said she found this and said, I gotta have the money right now, so there was bills at the store I needed to pay that didn't get paid. But
And after he graduates, you know, say 10 years from now, God forbid the cancer comes back and he can't be covered because I didn't have the $350 to cover him today.
But the OSU policy gives only temporary relief. It expires in mid-May and provides minimal protection if the cancer should come back. Meanwhile, a month behind on the mortgage, Danna continues to look for a job with benefits.
You don't realize how fast you can hit $1 million. You know, you think, oh, to be a millionaire, you'd have all this money. But when you're looking at medical bills, it's not a lot of money. It doesn't take long at all.